Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Wells. I write horror, fantasy, and science fiction, and I talk about games on the internet. Today, I'm going to be talking about this exciting Legend of the Five Rings supplement called Courts of Stone. This one delves very specifically into castles and courts, as the title would imply. It has several different sections. Some of them are incredibly awesome. Some of them are kind of boring, but let's go through them bit by bit. No PDF, so we just have this to go with today. So the first chapter, it's 3 chapters because they don't know how to chapter things in this series of games. Um, Chapter 1 includes a huge section that talks about castles, what castles are, and how they function in society, and so on and so on and so on. And then there's a ton, like 10 or 11 different castles specifically described. And what I love about this section is that every one of them is different. Some of them are very important ones, like the Kyudens. They separate the difference between a Shiro and a Kyuden. A Shiro is like a really big castle that is important to a great clan, or even a minor clan. And then there's a Kyuden, which is a very big castle that the emperor himself can visit and hold winter court in. And so there's a significant difference between the two types of castles. So you get all the way to like Kyuden Doji, which is next to the imperial palace itself, probably the most important castle, politically speaking, in all of Rokugan. And then down the line, you've got some others that are, war fortresses and some different ones. One of the ones that I really loved was Kyuden Asako, which is a Phoenix Clan castle that is very mystical, and it has a huge garden area with hot springs and special things like that. And there are different times of the day when the guards and the priests and stuff who take care of the gardens just won't let you in at all, because that's when the gods and the kami and the spirits come and enjoy the baths, and so mortals can't do it. And it's just nice to have those little reminders of how closely linked the spiritual world and the physical world are in Rokugan. So that is all great stuff, and it's a lot of fun, and it takes up, I would say, probably the bulk of the book. The end of that chapter talks specifically about the Crane clan. Just like the other supplement for Legend of the Five Rings, the Shadowlands, had a huge section about the Crab clan, this has a huge section about the Crane clan. They're the ones that deal with most directly with art and with diplomacy and politics and things like that. And so it makes a lot of sense to spend a lot of time talking about the Crane clan. And so you get a huge section on their history and on their politics and on how they work, what each of the major clan families are like, how is the Doji clan different from the Daidoji clan, and so on and so on. It's really neat stuff. Chapter 2 is all of the new player information. And so they have the Deer clan. Every book includes a minor clan. And last time in Shadowlands, they did the Falcon clan, which is kind of neat and has some cool stuff. The Deer clan does not seem as well planned out. I don't know. It's kind of boring. Like their thing, the Deer clan thing, is balance. And primarily that manifests in matchmaking. They have special matchmakers that can, like, read fortunes and see bits of the future, and so they are kind of almost Benny Gesserit style, going around and trying to make certain matches because they know they will be valuable. That's a neat idea, but it's the only thing the clan has going for it. They've got some spear dancers that are basically just warriors, but deer this time. There's I don't know. I wasn't thrilled with the Deer Clan. That said, there's a lot of other stuff in here that is fantastic. There's a bunch of new schools, which in this game are kind of like classes. And a lot of them focus specifically on court-style stuff. You've got Daidoji Spymasters, the Ikoma Shadow School. You've got various different kind of courtier kind of stuff. scholars, and that sort of thing. You have the Yasuki Yojimbo, which is a bodyguard, which is a nice thing to have if you're in a dangerous court. And then they've got the Bayushi Death Dealer, which is kind of a cross between a ninja and a samurai. And I don't know. There's some really neat stuff. I like a lot of the classes in here. Good advantages and disadvantages and all that stuff that you expect from a supplement. That's all great. Even the Deer Clan Matchmaker is a pretty fun new school, so I probably shouldn't be griping about the Deer Clan. Anyway, the final section, Chapter 3, is the best one, and it is incredibly cool, and it would be the reason that I recommend people buy this book. And what it is it is a description of how to run a court-style game or adventure. We tend to think so strongly in role-playing games about, adventuring, about physical conflicts, about fighting monsters and combat and that sort of thing. And so it's really nice to have this section that delves into the politics, because a court scene in Legend of the Five Rings can be every bit as tense and as dangerous and as deadly as a fight. Because if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, if you make the wrong alliance, then you're gone and everything is for naught. And so there's a lot of good advice here on how to run conversations. There's a neat little 2-page spread about courtesy. One of the tenets of Bushido is courtesy. How does that matter as much as like loyalty and duty and that kind of thing? Well, if you're in a court, it matters a ton. How do you incorporate that? How do you incorporate that into your game? There's rules for that in here. There's a section about titles, which I thought was really fun, and it's longer than you would think it would be. There's a section about bonds, which is kind of a new rule of how to link people together. The characters or the non-player characters can be bonded together by marriage, by ties of blood, by ties of duty, by ties of friendship, and you don't need to formalize those with a mechanical system. But this is a pretty neat one, and so there are certain things here and there, certain relationships that could absolutely benefit from a couple of extra neat mechanical things that the bonds allow them to do. My favorite part of this whole book is the section on how to create a court. And it basically delves into a brand new system of almost like character creation, but for NPCs, and the players and the GM collaborate together. And it is kind of a 6 or 7 step process of, filling out the court. Who are the people? What are they like? How are they connected to each other? There are some things the GM does on their own, and there are some things that the party does all together with the GM. And it's actually fabulous. It is so great that I have already started using it in some of the other game systems that I run. It is a really slick, easy tool that will help you build a social network, essentially, of non-player characters, and then give you some really interesting conflicts inside of that network that your players and their characters will have to navigate, and things that they can deal with, secrets they can discover, alliances they can make, and so on. If you have any kind of game or just a single session of a game in which talking to people and making some alliances and that sort of courtly style stuff is going to be important, then this book has just an absolutely gorgeous system for handling that, and I really love it. So anyway, fantastic art in this game, fantastic pictures and description of castles. Like I said, there's 10 or 11, and lots of ideas that can inspire the creation of your own castles, should you need one of the ones that's not listed in here. Deer Clan didn't hit for me, but it might hit for you. And then the whole Chapter 3, the entirety of it, how to run a court-style game, absolute gold. Incredibly valuable, incredibly well-written, and incredibly playable. So, Courts of Stone for Legend of the Five Rings. Wonderful book. Give it a chance. Pick it up. I also want to take this opportunity to say One of the games that I used this court system in is I adapted it to my own Dungeons & Dragons game that I run on Twitch called Typecast RPG. We're doing a homebrew campaign in that, and I've had the characters trying to... the last few sessions they've been negotiating kind of a group of very important people who have all come together for a museum exhibit opening. And the first couple of sessions, it wasn't really working. The characters weren't really engaging. And then I used a bunch of the principles from this book to kind of change the way a lot of those relationships worked. And then we ran a session last night, and it worked great. I even had one of the players contact me afterwards and say, hey, you did a good job of explaining who these people are and how they relate to each other. It really helped the world building. So, yay! The principles work, whether you're using them for Legend of the Five Rings or not. Anyway, check out this book. It's a lot of fun. Wonderful game system. Very good supplement for it. And thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next review.